we ready? We ready? Is everyone in their seats? Keep your hands and legs inside the vehicle, please. Okay. So, hello everybody. I am going to show you how I got to this final step of a ruffle tower as my building concept through the research that we've done in the last 4 weeks. So as we started out with the textile research, the ones I wanted to go back and emphasize that influenced my project were the paintings of fabric being used as architecture, as the walls, as roofs, as umbrellas, as a lot of different things, as it being a very versatile material, and seeing how much depth can play into using it, and also structures made for fabric. When I don't know if you remember me talking about the fabric dyeing process, but they hang up the fabric strips in these structures that are specifically made for this, and they can be huge. So I really liked the scale play with it, where you can do it with a very small scale or a huge scale, and just playing with drapery. And then when I was exploring that, I did fabric forms out of concrete, and I liked the texture, the light, and again the depth that the fabric can play on such a small scale that can be translated later. And then one that I was obsessed with is this ruffle that I made that is beautiful from 360 degrees, and it's very much like every angle, it may be similar, but it is a little bit different, and so I really liked the variety that you can play around with that. And I have my little ruffle here, one of them. As I was exploring architecture in fashion, I was finding, I found this dress by Givenchy in the 2020 Fall Couture show, and I just did a sketch thinking, like, if I translated this dress into a building, what would it look like? How could I involve, like, the layers, the depth, the scale, everything? And so that's the sketch that I originally made. When we went into site analysis, I have 3 of those diagrams that I wanted to show again today, and that was my public versus private space, where we are emphasizing the public space closer to the basilica and facing the downtown area, and the private space, as we go up into the tower, it becomes more private, but the mixed area is in that middle where we could maybe bounce around that triangle in between the public space, which would be, in public I mean like you could walk off the street and enter into the space and it would fairly make sense. And semi-public is like you were invited into the space and it makes sense. Like you can't just walk off to the street and start taking a class because you have to sign up for that kind of thing. But I do think that like warrants kind of a separation where that happens. And then also the tower diagram, because it makes like it's zigzagging and it makes sense for it there to have a tower and it wouldn't be out of place, which a lot of people have talked about those heights. And then the views 360 degrees from the site and trying to take advantage of that like opportunity that we're in with this site. My residential precedent that I wanted to emphasize again is the Park and Polk Jonathan Siegel, and it's the H layout floor plan with the 3 bedrooms on one side and 2 bedrooms in the middle of the H. But specifically, I believe the space saving factor with the stairwell opening up into, the stairway opening up, the elevators are here and the stairs are here. So they open up into like a very small hallway area where people can slip into like their bedrooms here, and you don't need like a massive like bar hallway. So I think that helps save space for the configuration that I'll show you later. And then for massing, the ICA at VCU, Institute of Contemporary Art by Stephen Hall, I really liked how the way that this is facing because campus is kind of flowing into this direction, so it's very inviting, and the projections, like they don't seem out of place, but they seem like I just want to go into them, and each space on the interior like has a reason for that projection to be that shape. But on the interior, they also have this curved roof, which like if you go back to this previous picture, none of this is curved. And then on the inside it is curved, so I like that play where necessarily what's on the outside does not have to be what it is on the inside, but they also connect well with like the light that is happening. No, I have so much. So the facade precedent is Frank Gehry's the hotel in Spain for this part of the duck right here, just how it glows and you can see into it, and mimicking like the ruffles that I was showing before. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go over time. I was really excited about this. And then here's another to show what that looks like in context of its surrounding areas, which would kind of remind me of like if I put my building in Asheville, it would kind of have the same vibe where it's like maybe out of place, but it makes sense, or it could go together. So for my public spaces, I have gardens, lobby, restrooms, and then shared with the school spaces is a gallery, lecture hall, and a classroom. And then for the specific students, they would have workrooms, private studios, and a library. And then residential spaces would have the apartments, condos, a gym, and communal areas within the apartment spaces. And then here's my massing concept one. And then this shows my outdoor space, the lobby area, the gallery, which would be the part that would be going into that public space facing the downtown Asheville area. The middle massing part, that's kind of the biggest, would be like the workshop that would be used for public classes and both like students. And then the private studios would be up a little bit higher to get them off of like where people would be coming in and out the most. And then there would be like a gathering area for those students that are living in the building that would kind of connect to the public areas of the school, so that transition is a little bit nicer. And then the residential part of the tower, and then probably something at the top for all the students again. And then this is my concept number 2, adding a second tower and getting rid of the massing part that was on the right lower side. And then on this one, we have more space for residents, and the again the private classrooms and the public classroom and their workshops would be like more shared within that. And then as you go out, it would be for their like private studying and studios, and then we would go up into residential. With the lecture hall and the gallery would both open into that like outdoor public space that would be facing the downtown area. So I wanted to show how I got from the massing to the facade. So here's building up the programs and then covering it in the initial sketch that I did, and then trying to make that like a wraparound, and then that was my like final sketch of it. And then I worked in Rhino trying to figure it out, so highlighting just the parts of the organic shapes. I know that I'll have to do a lot more work with this, but seeing like how they would interact with each other in a 3D form and not just like two-dimensional space. And then this is it overlaid onto the massings concept number 1. And then that's with the basilica in the site. And then I have concept number 2, and then concept number 2. Yes, I forgot about the models. And then, so this is concept number 2, what a model shows me. Careful, I want to take it apart. And then this is concept number 1. I also have it 3D printed, and then I did like a in progress 3D print with the ruffles to see what would happen, freeballing it. And I really like the way it came out, so this is a kind of a mixture in between the what's on the screen and just the massing. And then I have also, this is my concept model with the ruffles all the way around, just showing like what I would want the end form to reference. Yeah, okay. Do you want to touch some?
That was amazing.
That was that was really good.
I like the videos.
I love the videos.
That was really cool.
They worked so hard.
And you can tell. Yeah, you can definitely tell.
So this to show the difference between the two. It's very similar to right here. This is the one that I added, and I added that. So it's like almost the same amount of volume.
And it sits like this.
Yes, it sits right here. And, so it's like a little pinch down. This is the corner that overlaps, so I made it like a little bit too big. But that's how it would go. With this is correct in my, like 20 more spaces. So tell you, for you, this is the electrical modality.
You were busy.
What'd you say?
You were busy.
I did so much work.
Well, the one thing I'm glad to see the way that the ruffle inspired part of it started to change, evolve. Because here I was a bit worried, only because in plan it's really no different than the other ones. It's
Yeah.
still kind of a square or a rectangle in plan, and so I think that what makes your inspiration from the yellow fabric, is like you said, it's interesting from 360 degrees.
Yeah.
Whereas this it has sort of a flat plane and in projection it's flat. It looks flat. So I think it's kind of experienced that way in the current state. But the precedent of course, like Fred Garrett immediately comes to mind, and I think that it's compound curve. It's moving in all directions. It is a very much a 360-degree experience. So I think that and that's just kind of a limit to just where you are with Rhino right now. But that next stage is sort of let it be a little bit more free form, but also be more like integral to not just a surface application. So that experience, whether it's maybe it's not the entire building, maybe it's a component of the site that sort of it starts to peel up and become part of the facade, become part of the experience, become part of the way space is created. I mean, think about like stairs or auditorium spaces. They're sort of spaces that naturally have like angled shapes that can potentially give you at least a place in the building to start looking at that and emphasizing that. Whereas I think in the tower, it might be more, it might not necessarily find its way up there, or if it does, maybe it's, one of those spaces is really capable of sort of being functionally that curve. It might be more like shading, or some sort of screening element. But the spaces themselves, I think, are probably going to be, more rectilinear with these. But you also mentioned the ceiling plane and the Steve Hall project. So that might be a way that it starts to, tie in the interior space can be affected. The cross-sectional experience can be directly linked to whatever that element is on the outside. So I think that's the challenge. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for like you're right when you were saying the spaces be inside of those like spaces, the ruffle spaces. So at the bottom, I was trying to like intentionally make the ruffles go around these particular masses on here, and then as you go up, it does become more of like a facade. But take advantage as much as I can of like making these shapes intentional at the bottom.
Yeah.
Good progress. I think the parties are good. I'm still not quite sure how that happens. That morphing, but I think that's a good step, good exploration, how that could happen. So I think that the other thing that suggests would be, I should say I like what's called the prison RT. I think it's really good. I think it's got got a nice, I think for me, it's got a nice balance of, kind of order. So I kind of actually, yeah, I mean, I have the same sense that the back is not like, it's not the 360 object, but at the same time, this plane and that plane do activate it. So anyways, I thought that was good, but the move further from that to that would be also to have the, you start to work the section, but you can work the plan too. So in other words, like one of the things that the Ruffles seem to do is like make conical sections, right? They're semi-conical. Or have the potential to be. And they're not really there. But, so anyway, it's just a matter of like flaring some of these volume out. I think you would get that sensibility. But,
I also feel like just the prismatic ones are really good.
Oh, do you want to see my project? I'll turn my phone.
Oh.
There's something about it, like, I don't know, just they're, they have like, they have, I don't know, just like good proportions, they're like independent. Well, this is kind of like, I think, I forgot whose project it was the other day, but like, that's sort of the part that like, because everything is so interesting and everything's not aligning, it's like little things like that. You know, if it were to stay in this sort of regularized state, you know, like that, I feel like that volume probably doesn't move along with that. Or those 3 volumes, however that sort of thing. But, yeah, I like the shape.
Do you have, like, are you between the two boards?
I mean, I guess I just like the one that has the 2 towers. I don't know what it is. There's a slenderness to them that I like. You know, I like
this one, too.
Yeah, how wide that is?
It's, yeah, it's 16.
It's pretty skinny, but I mean, it's not to say
It was like
couldn't
one
grow.
bedroom thing.
Yeah, 20 feet would probably be very good, because that way you have corridor access or something. But there's something about it that it kind of reminds me of like the standard hotel. And it's a tall, somewhat slender, but it sort of bends and spans over top of the high line. It's just a nice shaped building. It's pretty brutal, but there's something about it that really. But it's the bend. I think it's the fact that it's like these 2 towers that aren't aligned. I find it kind of nice. It's kind of like the UN feel to it too. It's the UN building.
What'd you say?
The UN building in New York, the United Nations.
I've seen it.
It's a complex. It's more of like a complex of buildings. That's that. You know, there's this. The main assembly hall that's got this really interesting roof shape. It's got the tower. It's just got a lot of different buildings that come together. Mostly because they're all kind of designed by different people, right? It's kind of like a Brasilia by near my house near my
Fair Hotel, UN building, Brasilia.
Brasilia. It's like the capital basically of Brazil, and it's been in the news a lot lately for not so good reasons. It's their sort of January 6th moment happening.
Oh.
So, but
for me, I mean, you need to try to do this, and this is the step towards that.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot, just from the mapping point of view. And I like, for me, the precedents are constructivism, constructivist, but that's not necessarily something that trace down if you're
Yeah.
I mean, there's another one too, that a precedent you should look at that, and I think that SoA deeds work tends to fall into a category. Sometimes it's just, I feel like
My queen.
I want to not like a lot of her stuff, but I would say that the Soho Tower is.
Is that the one in China?
Yeah, the Soho Tower, yeah, but it's in China.
Yeah.
it's kind of remarkable. I mean, it's hard, I can't get over how, it's a very simple shaped building. It's sort of an hourglass that's more base-like.
Yeah, and the
But it's
inside's
basically
like-
two towers that just completely twist,
Yeah.
and the atrium is like 80 stories tall. And there's something really fluid about it, but it's very regular. And I think that's maybe, a good counterpoint to the Gary stuff. Because sometimes her work can be a little gimmicky, I think. But I feel like it's at its best when it's kind of like restrained by some very because of the scale of that building, it's so big, the moves wouldn't work. So the whole building had to be a more simplified gesture.
Yeah. I really like also, she does a lot where it's the same thing kind of repeated, but like a little bit off. So like one floor to one floor is very similar, but like one floor to 15 floors down
Right.
are different.
Yeah.
So it's like a very subtle
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
She's my queen. I love her.
So you should do a series of relief drawings. You seen those?
I
You just look
have.
those up. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want it posted or not?
All right, these are my 3 massing models for the party. Started out looking at the site, as we all did. I think we all know what we all relate to. I think for me, it was kind of the north-south connection between the city and the kind of the mountains. I know we have 360 views of mountains, but it kind of correlated with what I was trying to do, bringing people in from the city and with the back view of the mountains. So